Okay, so tonight, or this weekend, depending on when you're watching this, our goal is to discuss the idea of manifest destiny and how it grows to be a little bit more complex when you bump into another country like Mexico. And so we're going to talk about how manifest destiny led to war with Mexico, and then this idea of manifest destiny. Does it serve to be one of those uniting factors that we had? Remember, like shared history or social mobility, or is it going to be a dividing factor for America? So here's where I would like to start. Please be sure to take out your note sheet, and we're going to be working on the back side of the note sheet today, the one that says Cause and Effect, Video Notes, Mexican-American War. And I'm going to be flipping back and forth to this sheet. I'm going to have to move it around a little bit because it doesn't exactly fit in my screen, but we'll be going back and forth between the Word document and the PowerPoint. So here's our goals for tonight. And I just want to start with this map right here because this map is pretty telling. I'm going to blow this up a little bit so you can see maybe just a little bit better. What's in yellow here is, you read in your book today, you read about the Texans and how they moved into Mexico. The Mexicans wanted them there. And this in yellow, when they gained their independence, when they become the Lone Star Republic, this in yellow is what Mexico was willing to say Texas was. And this yellow plus the green is what the Americans who lived in Texas and now had their own country were claiming was Texas. As you can tell, that's a pretty big dispute. And what we're gonna look at is on this sheet. Okay, we have first cause, Mexico gains its independence from Spain. And what I'd like you to do is for this first effect, they invite Americans into Texas. And the reason that they invite Americans into Texas is so that they can figure out a way to cultivate cotton like the Americans do. They want to get rich too, and Texas offers them an opportunity to grow cotton like they do over here, and if you were to extend this map out in the southern United States. So the effect of one of the effects of Mexico getting its independence is that they invite these Americans in. Now that effect is going to become a cause because what we know happens in 1836 is that the Americans in Texas, right, seek and gain their independence from Mexico. And the two main issues, I'll capitalize these so you can maybe see them a little bit better, were slavery and local control. See, once the Americans get there, the Mexican government doesn't like how independent they are. And so they outlaw slavery, and they begin to enforce very stringent rules from Mexico City on the Texans, on the Americans in Texas. And the Americans don't like it. Most of them are Southerners. They believe in states' rights. They believe in local control. And so they start a revolution, and they overthrow the Mexican government in Texas. Now, it doesn't mean that the United States gets Texas. It just means that Texas is an independent country. Now, what we know is that Texas wanted to become a part of the United States. And so the effect of this is that, okay, we're going to say Texas desires annexation, okay, but sectionalism, right? Sectionalism will cause that. Will keep that from happening because we have that balance. We talked about that balance between northern and southern states in Texas. Especially if you think about it like this, Texas is one really big southern state that comes with slavery built in. So eventually, in 1844, we get President Tyler who agrees to annex, right, to bring into the United States Texas. And then President Polk, who promised to do that anyway, he becomes president of the United States. So I gave you that one. Now the effect of that, okay, and this is pretty significant, is that we have to answer this question. What is Texas? And how far will we go to support our claims? All right. So what that means is, how big is Texas? So we annexed, the United States annexes Texas in 1844. What do we get? Do we get the yellow? Do we get the yellow plus the green? What do we get? This is disputed between Mexico and the United States now. Not only Mexico and Texas, but now it's disputed between Mexico and the United States. And so now all of a sudden, Texas brings into question, how can we get along with our neighbors? Will we get along with our neighbor Mexico? And so the effect of this, which becomes another cause, is, this conflict leads directly, or this disagreement leads directly to conflict and war between the U.S. and Mexico between 1846, right, 1846 and 1848. And what's significant about that, obviously, is that this is going to become a part of Manifest Destiny. Okay, this becomes a component of Manifest Destiny. Now, this leads the war, right? The war leads directly to a question, or the success of the war leads to this reality, right? The U.S. wins, right? That's all we're talking about here. So we get to the treaty. I spelled that wrong. All right, we get to the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, right? The treaty ending the war. The U.S. gains what we call the Mexican Cession, and I'm just going to show you really quickly what that looks like. Okay, the Mexican Cession that's the war. The Mexican Cession is, right, we get Texas, right? We get Texas, and then we get all of this light pink. Don't worry about this yet. We get all of this light pink territory. That's a significant chunk of land. Now, in the terms of the treaty, we pay $15 million. Mexico, we leave Mexico City. The war ends, and we get all of this. That's pretty significant. And if you think about it, what it leads to is a question about, do we accept this treaty? Does this treaty have, anything that we need to talk about or discuss? It's a pretty significant victory for the United States. And so here is a piece of this that we need to understand, because as we were negotiating an end to the war, this representative from Pennsylvania, his name is David Wilmot, otherwise would have been an obscure figure in history we'd never talked about. Think about how many congressmen we don't talk about. This guy creates a law that he introduces called the Wilmot Proviso, which says that any land that we gain from Mexico will never have slavery in it while it's a territory. So a bill declaring slavery could never exist in any territory that we have taken from Mexico. Guess what the effect was, right? You can probably imagine, right? Southern states want to know why, and northern states begin to have that conversation about how they feel about living in a country, right, with slavery. So if I go back to my goal here, you probably get a pretty good idea, how did Manifest Destiny lead to war with Mexico? Well, we annexed Texas. There's a dispute over territory. We try to solve that dispute over territory, and the way we solve it is we go to war over it. Right? We fight Mexico over our disagreement. As a result of that war, we beat them, and we gain significantly more than just Texas. We gain a lot of land. And so the question that we have to answer, then is, did Manifest Destiny unite or divide the United States? Well, in different scenarios, in different ways, that answer is going to be different. When it comes to the Mexican War, it looks like, boy, we could be united in all this land that we gained. We're united. We fought Mexico. All those things are good. But when you bring in this Wilmot Proviso, the politics of it, boy, that creates some dissension. And so what I'd like you to do is I'd like for you to jot down a summary here in the summary section and answer to these two questions in your own words. How did Manifest Destiny lead to war with Mexico? And then second, did Manifest Destiny unite or divide the United States? So you'll have those in your notes. and then you can go over to the Google Doc, and I'm going to ask you very similar questions, but you can put them in there. But it has to be 100%, both third and fourth period classes. It has to be on target. Okay? See you on Monday.